folks, welcome back. I'm DaShannon Lovin, your friendly librarian. It's been a long time, but I want to talk to you about some books that I've read. Somehow, without making videos for the last 2 months, I jumped up to 79 subscribers, so I'm hoping that even though I don't have some new videos out there, that you're still trying to catch up on some of those old ones. But I'm really happy to be back today. It has really been crazy around here, and I have been dying to talk to you about some of these great books. I hope you like my new book t-shirt. It's booked for the weekend and it's by Life is Good. If you know that brand, they're always about positivity. And I got this one in Little Nashville, a little trip that I took back right before Christmas to do a little Christmas shopping and then bought a little gift for myself. I am going to shake it up a little bit on this video. It's just, you know, live and learn, I guess, but there's no way for me to get a video short enough whenever I'm waiting. The last time I did a video was November 24th, so we're over 2 months of reading and reviewing, and it piles up a little bit too much. And at the same time, I was also trying to catch up on all my reviews for the Lillian Jackson Braun series. I finished some that I am going to talk to you about today. So I finished all of hers. And then I read Kate Carlisle. I would like to do a dedicated video just to her books. I'd like to do a dedicated video to Cleo Coyle and to Alex Erickson. And then am I finished or almost finished catching up on all of my reviews on Goodreads for the Harry Potter books. So those are a little different too. Also, because I'm back in the classroom this year, one of the things I do every day is talk to them about a book that I've read and that I would recommend and that we have available to them in my classroom library. So in addition to the ones that I have in the classroom library, most of those I have a copy here at home. So I will do a dedicated video of just the books that I am reviewing for my classroom to my students. That'll give you a good look at some young adult books that I'm recommending to my students that you might find helpful too. So instead of doing what I normally do, which is talk to you about the books that I've read since the last video, talk to you about the books that I've recommended and caught up on my Goodreads recommendations since the last video, talk to you about my book haul, and then talk to you about book news, I just feel like that's not all going to fit in this one video since it's been over 2 months and all those things have been piling up. So pulling some of those things out, and I'll do separate little videos as I get time, but honestly, just my time back in the classroom just does not leave me a lot of spare time in the evenings. So I'm going to pull out all of the Lillian Jackson Braun and do a separate video. All of the Kate Carlisle, her Fixer Upper series and her Bibliophile series. All of the Cleo Coyle, the Coffee House Mystery series. All of the Alex Erickson, the Bookstore Cafe Mystery series. Those are both Cozies. Actually, all of those are Cozies. And then the whole Harry Potter series, which I did read a long time ago. I have the cassettes of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. So upstairs today, I put that in and was listening to that whenever I was putting up some laundry. So I do listen to these and reread these quite a bit. But for some reason, I had never reviewed them on Goodreads. So I caught those up, but I'll pull those out for another video too. All right, so most important to me, the books that I have read in the last 2 months since I've talked to you. Let's start there. Now this is going to round out my 2020 reading. So I have talked to you about most of those, if not all of those. I started doing these videos about March. The whole lockdown thing is what sparked it. So I think I've talked about most of the books that I read in 2020. I might need to go back and catch a few. I'll look and see, but this should round out all the books that I read in 2020. So in 2020, I did get 72 books down. 70 was my goal, so surpassed my goal. That's always good. But even if I'm being honest with myself and I look back, I know I scrolled through social media too much. I watched too much television. I was lazy. So I am upping that this year. This is the first year that I'm making my goal, 2021, to actually do 100 books. What I know is I know myself, and that's not too much to ask. I just need to shift some goals around, and I'm really working on, what are we at? I'm at February 6th, I think. And my goal is to either read 100 pages or read for an hour or listen to an audio for an hour every day. And again, I know that if I don't get it done, it's usually because I'm just being lazy. So the first book that I want to talk to you about that I've read since the last time we've talked is Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. Nig? Celeste Ng. I don't know. I have no idea how to pronounce that. I get into this all the time too. I'll be standing up in front of the kids. I, looked at the book, I marked it, I know what I want to say about it. And then when I actually have to say the author's name out loud, I realize I have no idea how to pronounce that name because it's been in my head the whole time. I read this for our Staff and Friends book club. It's the book club that I always talk to you about. We meet about every 6 weeks or so, and this was one of the choices. She is also the author of Little Fires Everywhere, which I think we also did for our book club earlier. But we did this one in, I believe, November of 2020. I liked it. I didn't love it. I didn't love Little Fires Everywhere either. I've really started making it a goal to read more modern fiction just because for the last 20 years since I've been in the high school library, I really focused on reading young adult literature and books that were in my library. So now I really do want to branch out a little bit. And I've done that the last year or so, I would say, and it just takes a little bit of getting used to. I don't know why. It's just different. And that modern fiction, sometimes I just feel like it either goes so slow, or it's not relatable to me, or it's just got a lot of drama in it, or I've already heard these stories before. And that's not necessarily what this is, but I just think that it takes me a little bit of getting used to, and usually I like them a lot more after I finish them and we talk about them at book club, or I talk about it with somebody else who's read it. I don't know why, but that just seems to work better for me. But really enjoyable story. I say enjoyable, it's dark, it's depressing. Yeah, so go read it. I'm just kidding. I do really like it. It's beautifully done. It's a great story about family dynamics, and which is a lot about how Little Fires Everywhere were. You'll remember that they made Little Fires Everywhere, if I'm not mistaken, Reese Witherspoon maybe with Hello Sunshine made it into a mini series, on HBO or something. I'm sorry, I've got some fruit flies floating around, so if you can see that in the video, you got any tips for me on how to get rid of those stinking fruit flies? I don't know if it's because I've got my plants that are in here or what's going on. Winter fruit? I don't know. It's driving me insane. We've tried what is like Dawn dish soap and vinegar in the little bowls or whatever, caught a bunch of them, but then they never seem to just go away. It's like they just come back. And even we were gone after Christmas. We were gone for a whole week. And I'm like, oh, well, surely with nothing in the house, they'll die. But again, I don't know if it's the plants or what. Didn't die, came back. Here they all are. So my husband is threatening his students yesterday, said that he would be a great YouTube video vlogger. So he's threatening to try dipping his toes in that. And he said that might be his first video, is how in the world to get rid of these fruit flies. So I anxiously await that. And if he does that, I'll link it here. So it's set back in 1977. I do really enjoy reading books that are set back in the 70s or 80s. I was born in 1972, and I just enjoy reading books that have some of those details in it from that time period, those 70s, 80s, even the 90s. I just enjoy reading those kinds of family dynamics too, families that are very different than my own. In this book, there is a death, a young girl, there's a death, and it's the families dealing with that death. Yeah, just super dramatic. So I doubt that I would pick up another Celeste book on my own, but reading it with book club, I'm always happy to read it and discuss it. They always have a ton of points that are really good in a book club when you have a group of people who are very different. So they have very different points of view. I really like that. It definitely lends itself to a book club reading. The next one I read, I don't have something to hold up and show you because it's The Hooker and the Hermit by... The Hooker and the Hermit by L.H. Cosway and Penny Reid. Penny Reid, another one of those goals. I love to read her. I would like to read one of her books every month. I don't have any that I've ever had in print. I read them all on my Kindle from my library. I think I might have purchased one when I needed one and I couldn't get it. But love Penny Reid. That should be another pull out video that I do. Unfortunately, I don't have anything to show you but my printout of the Goodreads review, but I love them. Hooker and Hermit did not disappoint. I read this in November of last year. It's a new series collaboration with L.H. Cosway. So, Penny Reid's just doing some amazing things, and I love all of her characters and how she is supporting other authors. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we just don't see it, and that is common, but I don't think it is. She gives people a voice, and she is pulling people up with her. her Smarty Pants romance. They have Smarty Pants romance authors now. So yes, that's what she used to write under. But then she was like, hey, come with me. If you're writing this kind of story, we want to get it out there. We'll help you do it. So in this book, Ronan Fitzpatrick is a hooker. And the hooker being a sports position that he plays in rugby. And he ends up running into, what's her name? Annie Caterer. And Annie Caterer is the hermit in the story. She's very much on her own. She sees this guy. She does an online blog where she basically makes fun of people, but in a good way. And then usually they donate money to a good cause. And he gets pulled into that. And then they end up in a different kind of relationship. So just really fun. I really liked it. I feel like this did slow down a little more than most of Penny Reid's books, where they usually amp up a little bit more. This one did more setting up the story and then kind of slowed down toward the end for me. The next book I read is actually one by a local author. It's a self-published book by Christy Hughes Decker. I grew up with her. She was a little bit younger than me, so I don't even think she was in high school when I was in high school, but we went to the same church and our families knew each other in the church. So her sister actually was in the same grade as I was, and a very close friend of mine. So this one's a lot more personal. It's a nonfiction memoir of her growing up there in our small little town, and she gets mixed up with some people, and they're all making very poor decisions. So she kind of walks you through that, and then the hope part should clue you in that she does that by forming a relationship with Jesus, which again, we grew up in the same church. You would think that we all grew up like that, but you know, being a teenager is hard. Being a teenager in a small town is even harder. So yeah, so super good. This also talks about the tragedy in her life. When she was in high school, she was dating a guy who had an accident and was paralyzed. And I was away from home when this happened, and remember hearing about it, and I remember the thought process of, what do you do? How do you deal with that? How do you continue on making life plans when something like that is thrown at you when you're 18, 19 years old? So super good read. You can get it on Amazon, and I love a good local story also. So I did want to finish up that Lillian Jackson Braun series. I had read all of the books in the series, but then there are these little side books. So this one was Short and Tall Tales, Moose County Legends, collected by James McIntosh Quillerin, who is a character in Lillian Jackson Braun's The Cat Who series. And this is just a collection of the short little stories that he tells throughout the series, pulled out. You know, I don't know that I read all of the tales within the Cat Who series, but maybe she expands on him for this. I'm not sure, but super quick read. You're only going to like this if you've read the whole Cat Who series. That's really the only way that you would pick this up. And again, I do plan on doing one of those pull-out videos. It'll probably be summer before I get to that, but I'm okay with that. I'm going to put them back on the shelf up there and then pull them down and do a video that's only dedicated to that cozy series, The Cat Who. If you have not read this cozy series and you like cozy mysteries, it is one of my top 5 for sure, and I really like listening to them. The guy who narrates them on the audiobooks, just a lovely voice. The next one that I read was Free Range Knitter by Stephanie Pearl-McFee. This is one of those books that I picked up somewhere along the way, and it had to be like a thrift shop or a garage sale or something, because the book's a little bit worn, and it says The Yarn Harlot Rides Again. And if you look at that cover, that's why I'm a sucker for these books. I had no idea what this was, and I'm just like, there's a lamb, or what is that? I think it's a lamb that is knitting on the front, and it's called Free Range Knitter. I'm buying that book. And it was fun. It was very fun. So again, it's more like nonfiction essays, and it's written only for people who either knit, enjoy knitting, or that fiber arts. It was very fun. And then after I have it and I'm reading it, then I realized that the Yarn Harlot is actually has an online presence, and that's how she started. And then she wrote a couple of these essay type books. So humorous. At the end of 2020, I sat down and wrote out all the genres that I want to make sure that I'm reading, and then I put the books that I had read in 2020 in those genres. And kind of I wanted to see if I was balanced in my reading. And one thing I'm definitely lacking is reading humorous books. So gonna have to amp that up in 2021. It is by one of my favorite publishers. Again, another reason that I would pick up the book. The Andrews, what's it called? Andrews McMeel, I think is how you say it. Yeah, Andrews McMeel. I have several of the books, and again, it's just because they're very aesthetically pleasing. Sometimes they have to do with like the arts of some sort, like art and crafting like I like to do, not like, you know, what is that called? Like, I started saying Mozart. It's not Mozart. Like, I don't know, like big art people, whoever they are. So I don't have a particular drink today. It's just a little bit more of a mimosa with my orange juice with a little adult beverage poured in there. I don't have the, is it champagne for a mimosa, I think? Didn't have any champagne, so put a little something else in there just to kick off the day. That I will be staying inside all day long because apparently there's an Arctic blast coming. The next book that I think I even bought, I think I bought it at the end of 2019. I bought it for some gifts and then I bought myself a copy. But it's Stay Sexy and Don't Get Murdered. It's a nonfiction by Karen Kilgariff and Georgia Hardstark. I listened to their podcast, My Favorite Murder. So this is kind of a dual, it says a dual memoir by the creators of the #1 hit podcast. It also says the definitive guide, the definitive how-to guide to stay sexy and don't get murdered. And I would say that there's not a more accurate description. It's definitely, sorry. All right, as I was saying, Stay Sexy and Don't Get Murdered by Karen Kilgariff and Georgia Hardstark. I love their podcast. I have a number of friends that we all listen to and talk about the cases. So I bought it as Christmas gifts back in 2019 for Christmas, and I finally got around to reading this in November. It's just such an interesting setup because they are talking to you about how they started the podcast and their own personal stories get mixed in there, which is nice. And they do share quite a bit of that on the podcast too. So you're going to enjoy this if you're a fan of the podcast. Or if somebody picks it up and they read the book, there would be no doubt in my mind that they would then listen to the podcast. So highly recommended this podcast before on one of my other episodes, I'm sure, but I enjoy it. Their whole podcast is murders, they're murder cases, some solved, some not solved, but they go in depth about those cases. I know there are a ton of podcasts that are out there like that now. Serial, Cult Litter, I think is out there. I listen to a number of them too, but this is still my all-time favorite podcast. It has some great chapter names in there, chapter names that are reminiscent of things that they say on the podcast, like Sweet Baby Angel or Stay Out of the Forest. There are some side notes in there. They're like in gray and they add to the chapters. They do final thoughts. And then there's interviews with both of them too. They've also included some of their murderinos art. So some fans that have done artwork inspired by their podcast, and they've included that in the book, and I think that's a nice touch. So highly recommend that. The next book that I finished in December was Mayhem and Mass. It's a Sister Lou mystery. It's the first in a new series. I'm pretty sure I picked this up at Books by the Banks. The main character in this cozy mystery is a plainclothes nun. It's by Olivia Matthews. Some of the other books in the series are Peril and Prayer and Alibis and Angels, so I love those cozy mystery names. It's a nice, good size for a cozy mystery. In this particular one, the main character, the plainclothes nun, she works very closely with her nephew. They both work at a religious college. He is kind of a fundraiser for the college, and it's associated with the nunnery. I don't know if that's what it is, but like a nunnery that she works at or that she is dedicated her service to. That's probably a better way of saying that. And one of her dear friends is coming to lecture at her nunnery, at her, what is that called? Convent? I don't know what that's called. But they're connected in with the college that her nephew is working for. And the man who's her friend, who's coming to lecture, he is murdered viciously. And so she hadn't seen him for maybe 10 years or so, and they had just reconnected, and she was really excited about him lecturing there, and then he's found dead in his hotel room. So she has to kind of reconnect with someone's story who's no longer there to tell it, and figure out who would ever want to do this. What would be the reason for this to happen? And she finds out that he was a little more troubled than she knew, a little unhappier than she knew. It is a bit long for a cozy. It's also a little reminiscent of Father Brown. If you watch Father Brown on, what is that, BritBox maybe? I love Father Brown. I've watched all of them. It's kind of reminiscent of that, so another reason why I like it. And you can tell that the characters are going to end up in all of these books. So looking forward to continuing this series. I will definitely continue it. I hope that she is at the next Books by the Banks here in Cincinnati, so I can pick up some of her other ones. Because I want to say, yes, that it is signed, which is always nice. So what did she put? Dear DaShannon, I hope you enjoy the story. Best, Olivia, Matthews? And she says something else under there that she must have it must be a pen name, because I think her other name is under there. And I can't read it. The next one that I read was Death of a Christmas Caterer. You can tell I got some cozies in it there at the end of the year. This one says the naughty list just got longer. A Haley Powell food and cocktails mystery by Lee Hollis. I'm sure I picked this one up somewhere because of that lovely cover. And it picks up in the middle of a cozy series. So it says, take a visit to Bar Harbor, Maine with these other Haley Powell mysteries. Death of a kitchen diva, death of a country fried redneck, death of a coupon clipper, and death of a chocoholic. Not my favorite cozy, but it was a fun read. Didn't love it. This is number 5, I guess, in the series, so I might pick it up at a thrift store or something and read another one, but I won't go looking for another one in this series. The main character is Haley Powell, and she is a food writer. So she tells a little story. Her magazine or newspaper columns are in here. So you read a little bit of her column, and then most of the time she's giving you a recipe for something, for a cocktail or for something that she's fixing to eat. And she does a little catering in this one. And of course, it's a good holiday. I don't think all of theirs are. They're not. All of hers are not holiday themed. So I am a sucker for a Christmas cozy. The next one that I just picked up and made sure that I had read because it wasn't on my list and I've owned it for a long time is Mary Engelbreit's Autumn. This is basically a little book of crafts, and they're autumn themed crafts. If I'm not mistaken, I did maybe the spring one earlier. I'm looking, Mary Engelbreit Spring, yes, is on my list of the books that I read earlier in the year. So I just wanted to make sure that I got through this one. So there's not a lot of reading that goes with this. This is more flipping through and looking at the different crafts that they are suggesting, and they all have Mary Engelbreit themed art to them. You know, I love Mary Engelbreit. She is one of my favorite artists, and I have her dishes and a lot of things like that. A lot of her artwork on home decorations that I have all around the house. I love Mary Engelbreit. The next one that I read, I actually received for Christmas and then took it with me when we went down to Florida for that week after Christmas. We just hung out in a house that we rented down there, and my son and my husband and some friends of ours, they went fishing every day, and I stayed at the house, took my dog Stella with me, and just had a great time reading out on the back screened-in porch by the pool. It was lovely. And I received this one for Christmas from my friend Stephanie, who I teach with. It's A Christmas Carol Murder, A Dickens of a Crime, and it's by Heather Redmond. Really enjoyed it. It is Christopher Dickens inspired. So you're going to see some characters in there that are very reminiscent of the Dickinson characters. Some that are actually real people, and then some that are just the characters. And it's an inspired story of that too. She's got some other ones. She's got one called A Tale of Two Murders and Grave Expectations. So a lot of plays on those Dickens titles, but I really enjoyed this one. This was a fun one. I'm going to call it a cozy mystery, but it's a little heavier. It's more of a mystery than a cozy mystery on this one. A little more graphic, you know, in a cozy. Usually one of the telltale signs of a cozy is it's not a graphic murder. This is a little more graphic. They do describe it a little bit more. So I'm going to say it's on that border of a cozy mystery. So it takes place in England in 1835. So you do have that other time, that Dickens time. And again, I love that Christmas theme. When it comes around to Christmas, that's all I want to read are Christmas stories, whether they be cozies or classics or whatever. Come December, that's all I want to read. The next one that I finished was the Cat Who Companion. This is a complete guide to Lillian Jackson Braun's beloved Cat Who mysteries. You know, I started reading this a long time ago. It's not a read it from cover to cover. This is more of a reference manual, but I did want to finish it up since I had finished up the Cat Who series. So you can see I've been doing that for a long time. It lists all of the Cat Whos. I numbered them and then put the date that I had finished them by. It's very well done, but it breaks up in talking to you about Coco and Yum Yum. Their catly behavior, their games and tricks. They talk to you about Quill and his career and his background, the other cast of characters throughout the whole series, and just lots of quotable things. It takes you through each book. You have a lot of the maps. So again, I'll talk to you a little bit more on this one when I do the whole series for the Cat Who, but I did finish that and it's in my 2020 stack. The next one that I finished was actually in January of 2021, and that is, I'm going to say, Live Lagom. I'm not sure if that's exactly how you say it. You can go to YouTube and put in that Lagom. It's a balanced living Swedish way, and you'll come up with all kinds of videos, and I'm sure they'll pronounce it for you better, but I'm going to say Lagom. My friend Stephanie, who I said bought me the Christmas Carol Murder, her husband is from Sweden. He lives here in the United States with her. They're married and have a child, and that's how she said, I would probably say it, now that I'm saying Lagom. Pretty sure that's how she said it. So I read this. I've had it for a while and just hadn't gotten to it. And I was searching for my one little word. You know, that one word that you really want to strive for in the new year. So for 2021, that's what I decided is that Lagom, that balance. That's going to be my word. And this tells you, it talks to you about balance in each of the areas of your life. Work, home, health, the environment. It's a beautiful book, very simple. It is put out by 10 Speed Press, but very well done. Very pleasing visually. So I did finish that. I finished it on the way back from Florida. It reminds me of the Fika, the Huga books. That's why I picked that one up, because I felt like it was in that same thread that I really enjoy reading about. It talks more about a holistic approach, balance to each of the areas in our life, and that's definitely something I need to strive for in the new year. This past year, since I started teaching back in the classroom in August, I pretty much go to work, I teach, I come home, I get something to eat, I clean up, and I sit down and I prepare for the next day. And I do that day in and day out, pretty much for the last couple of months. So not a great balance going on. I'm able to do that because my son is away at college. So when he was here, I definitely turned things off. But other than that, I don't know how else to do it right now. To try and get, it's really like that first year teaching, but doing it as a 40-something-year-old person. So I'm working on it, but it's definitely goals. It gives a lot of practical advice and a lot of inspiration. Next, in January, I received the Kate Carlisle Premeditated Murder. I'm one of Kate's raters, so I do get these for free in exchange for an honest review that I throw out there. This is part of the Fixer Upper Mystery Series. So again, I will review these in a video, all of their own, the Fixer Upper Mystery Series and the Bibliophile Lovers Mystery Series, I think is what it's called. But I love her book. She is another one of my very favorite cozy authors. I will read anything that she writes, and that's not it. She doesn't even have to send them to me for free for me to read them. I read them long before that, but I enjoy them. I enjoy her characters. The main character in these Fixer Upper series is Shannon Hammer. This may sound familiar to you because Hallmark picked it up. So I think there's maybe 2 episodes so far with Shannon Hammer in it. Shannon Hammer is a young contractor. She does renovations for homes, and unfortunately she keeps finding these dead bodies. So enjoy those, and you can see on the cover it's also got the requisite dog, cat on the front of it. So whoever she has doing her covers, they do such a great job. So you'll find my reviews for all of Kate Carlisle's books on Amazon. I also put them onto Goodreads, and then anywhere else that I can. I'm trying to think, I feel like there's somewhere else I throw them out there. But I enjoy reviewing her books. I like that her books have that love interest. In both of her series, her main character is a young woman, and in both of her series, the young women have a love interest in there. I started to say they're not married, but the farther you go in Bibliophile in that series, She does get married, and that also leads into the story. But this one, they are not. And this is one where she is starting to think about where her future is headed. I like the reoccurring of characters. I think that's another reason why I like these series. They're dependable. I've not had one that I don't enjoy, and I enjoy hearing what the other characters are up to. And that in each book, sometimes we go back and then we pull in some character we've already heard about, and then they're more of the story. I enjoy that. The next book that I finished, again, do not have a visual. I listened to it on audio, and that is Extreme Ownership, How U.S. Navy SEALs Lead and Win. It's a book that's been recommended to me a number of times. Also, I love Joe Rogan's podcast, video, what do you call that, his YouTube channel, his program, whatever you want to call it. I enjoy it, and he had Jocko Willink on there before, and it's just come up a number of times with friends of mine when we're talking about either Joe Rogan or inspiration or motivation. This guy's name comes up. So I listened to that. It's an older book. It's been out since 2015. It is a dual narration when you're listening to the audio with Jocko Willink and Leith Babin. They were both in the same Navy SEAL team? They were on the same Navy SEAL team, and now they both work together, working with companies and just groups or organizations to try and help them be better leaders. So highly recommend that one. It's a super good read, and one that you can kind of do as you go along, and you don't have to like speed through it. You could do it over the course of a year and just listen to a chapter, and it definitely has some very applicable principles. The next one I also don't have a visual for. I have the printed out Goodreads if you want to see that. But this is The Order of the Day. It was our book club discussion book for January. It's a short one. It's by Eric Vuillard. I reviewed it for you on Goodreads, so you can look at it there. If you follow me on social media, I always review the book on Goodreads and then throw it over onto my Facebook page, so you can see a lot of my reviews there. If you're on my Instagram, I always put out a picture of whatever I'm currently reading. This is a good one. I mean, it's short. I am not a great history person, but this is one that, again, super short. I read it on my Kindle. That's what I did. I didn't listen to it. I read it on my Kindle, so again, easy to flip through and very short. It takes you back to 1938 and Hitler, the setting up of Hitler, how that happened, how we continue to repeat history. And God, it's just a lot of information. And again, I'm not a history person, so I need these history books that make it more interesting. The weird thing about this book is it is not like a normal nonfiction book or fiction. They actually classify it as fiction, which I think is a little weird because it's definitely got that nonfiction information in there. But it's his technique that makes it read more like fiction because it is chronological. He's talking to you and he acts as if he's in these meetings and he knows what the conversation was, which obviously he doesn't. So, he's taking some liberties there. I really like this quote. There's nothing worse than people getting caught up in false dilemmas, squandering their passion on awful causes. Oh, just timely. When I looked up, like, what is this? Is it fiction? Is it nonfiction? Because I do lead that book club discussion. So I always like to make sure I've got my ducks in a row when I show up. It called it a recit, R-E-C-I-T. So it was more like some essays that he wrote that he then turned into a book. But again, highly recommend this one. Easy read. And then the last one that I'm going to talk to you about, but I have not done the Goodreads review or any of the others, so that's coming up. But I just finished it yesterday or Thursday, I guess. It's The Knife of Never Letting Go by Patrick Ness, and I have to talk to you about it today because it's so fresh in my mind. But my goodness sakes, is this a must read. So it's been in my library for a long time, my home library, and I have it at school. It's a trilogy. The first one is The Knife of Never Letting Go, and then there is The Ask and the Answer and Monsters of Men. All of these are Patrick Ness. On the back, it does say age 14 and up, which is interesting because it's a pretty mature story. And not only mature because it's violent and the subject matter is heavy, but it's mature because it's so hard. It's it's a hard one to describe. It is post-apocalyptic, I would say, because whatever's already happened has happened. It's like they've gone to a new planet to set up society because the last one didn't work. And when they do that, things do not go well. And not only do they not go well, but most of the story, there's some dark history that the main character doesn't know. And he knows he doesn't know it. He's afraid to find out. And when he finds out where he came from, it's tough. It's really, really tough. So I would say extremely mature 14-year-old if you're going to say 14. I'm teaching freshmen, so I feel like I've got a better handle on their maturity level. I read this because one of my students read it and said, oh my goodness, Miss Lovin, this is so good, you need to read it. I'm like, okay, and then I read it and I'm like, it's painful. But totally think it was appropriate for her. It's not one that I would recommend to all of my freshmen. I think you really have to be a reader because it's not just like it's a long book. It's not like it's just a big book. But the way that it's written, here was a good visual for you. The way that it's written, it's hard. It's hard to grasp. I wasn't super excited about it in the beginning because I thought, I don't want to read another apocalyptic book. But it just sets it up and it's very unique. And then when you get at least a quarter of the way in, it's obvious that Patrick Ness is brilliant. I mean, his writing is brilliant. This whole concept is brilliant. The way he weaves the themes into the story, brilliant. How he sets up people in the story early on that continue to follow and track this main character down. And we just don't get it. We don't know why. And then when you find out why, you're just... It's a lot, and I loved it. I loved it. I highly recommend it. So I will throw that Goodreads review out there, but it's going to be a while. All right, so that wraps up the books that I've read since the last time that I've done this video. 2 books that I reviewed from here, so I want to make sure I include those, but that I do not have at school because I'm going to pull those videos out to another video. Lead a Horse to Murder by Cynthia Baxter. And Keepsake Crimes by Laura Childs. Laura Childs is a famous cozy mystery writer. She's got a lot out there. And I enjoyed both of these 2 reads. They are not ones that I picked up and said, oh, I'm going to finish this whole series. But I did really enjoy, and I would recommend both of these as kind of just books that you would read along the way. Like maybe throw in your book bag to read along the way. As you're traveling back and forth to work, or you're doing errands or whatever, and you've got a few minutes here or there, or your beach bag. That's how these would be great reads. So for Lead a Horse to Murder, it's by Cynthia Baxter. It's number 3 in the Raining Cats and Dogs Cozy Mystery Series. The vet is the sleuth in the story. There's her friendly dog. I think it's a Dalmatian. Again, another easy catch for me. No pun intended. I enjoyed this one. Keepsake Crimes is actually set in New Orleans, so that was a fun one. I will read, this is the first in the series, and she has another series. Laura Childs has another series, the Tea Shop Mystery Series. I don't think I've read any from that one, but I think I've read a couple of different books by her, and they're enjoyable. Just nice little cozies, again, that you would just throw in your bag. I think I've talked to you about the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society before, but I'm not sure that I've mentioned that we ended up finally watching the movie to that. And highly, highly recommend. The movie is beautiful. It's still one of my all-time favorite books. It's a historical fiction read. It's set in 1946 on the island of Guernsey. They're occupied during the war, and then they just kind of don't leave. They're kind of forgotten. Everybody else just kind of moves on after the war ends, and they don't. It's kind of forgotten. A tragedy happens while they are there and being occupied, and that sets up the story. I loved it. It's a great romance, but more than just a romance, it's a story of friendship. I really love it. Some of the books that I have reviewed recently, and I'm not going to talk to you about them here, I'm going to pull them out, but I reviewed them for my classroom. All of those books I've read in the past, but I have copies in my classroom and copies here, so I wanted to make sure I got the Goodreads reviews on there. So I've been doing that over the past couple of months, but I'm going to do a different video and shave off some time here. So if you do follow me on social media, I did throw out information back in January that Kenneth Branagh is going to star in the TV adaptation of A Gentleman in Moscow. So I'm really excited about that. Our book club did that book, and I love him, so you can't go wrong there. And then also I shared the Book Lovers Quiz. That was pretty early on, maybe in November that I shared that. It is part of Robin Carr's Book Lovers Quiz, and you're just rating your score based on things like, do you read more than 20 hours a week? Have you used a receipt as a bookmark? And then you get points for those things. So that was kind of fun. So throwing those two out there. Let's do some of that book haul. I have picked up some books in the last little bit. This, You Can Call Me Ishmael. This is put out by Clarkson Potter. I bought this in a little Nashville little shop. It's not really a book, I guess. They're little postcards. They're literary postcards, and they are diagrammed sentences. We did grammar all this past week in my freshman and senior classes, and we're not good at it. So we need to do more of this. But these are diagrammed sentences, and it's like a little book of postcards, but it's a beautifully done little book. So throwing that one out there, I bought it. I'll have to think about what the name of the store was. Was it the Emerald Pencil, maybe? Pretty sure that was the name of it, in Nashville, Indiana. I just picked up this one, Killers of the Flower Moon, the Osage Murders and the Birth of the FBI by David Grann. I've been wanting to read this for a long time, and we went to a little pizza place out in Montgomery, Brooklyn Pizza and Pasta, I think is what it was called, and there was a big bookshelf there, and I, of course, walked over and started looking, and the lady who was at the shop, she said, hey, help yourself to anything you might want to read. So I took this one off the shelf, asked her about it, we chit-chatted a little bit. But this is a National Book Award finalist. I know that the My Favorite Murder podcast has also talked about it. I've heard that, if I'm not mistaken, there's a documentary out there about this. So pretty excited. Just a little paperback. Picked that one up. Happy with that one. We went by the Goodwill boutique right there in Montgomery too, and I picked up The Road by Cormac McCarthy, just a paperback, but one that I know I need to read. I picked up a paperback copy of The Secret Life of Bees for my classroom, just a little paperback. Paperback copy of Frederick Bachman's Beartown. This is the author of A Man Called Ove, which I really enjoyed. So I've heard good things about Beartown. Happy to put that one on my shelf. And I picked up The Tale of Despereaux. I have already read this one. This is by Kate DiCamillo. If I'm not mistaken, this won the Newbery. Pretty sure it did win the Newbery Award. So glad to have one to put on my shelf. Back in December, I was at my son's girlfriend was coming home with him for Thanksgiving and Christmas. That fruit fly is driving me nuts. And so I picked up a book to put on her nightstand. It's a Reese's Book Club book, One Day in December. Josie Silver. Yeah, Silver. I picked this up at Kroger. I was pretty happy. Like, of course, I was going to get groceries, and I'm like, probably need like a candle and a book and some tissues for her nightstand. So I thought this was a cute one to put on there, and I'm happy to start reading that one too. And then the last one, I bought this with my birthday money, with my Christmas money. I got some gift cards from some friends, my Secret Santa and my husband for Christmas, and this is one that I ordered off of Amazon. I've been wanting this forever. Notorious RBG, The Life and Times of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, by Aaron, Carmen, and Shayna Kitsink. We'll say it like that. Not sure if that's right, but it's a beautiful book. I knew it was one that I wanted to own, and this is on my reading list for my nonfiction reads in 2021. So super excited about that book haul. Then the last thing I really want to talk to you about before I sign off here are some books that I'm currently reading. I am reading Magpie Murders. Here we go. By Anthony Horowitz. I picked this up in Little Nashville also, a little coffee shop that does used books. You know, normally when you open it up and you have like a little price or something right there. I was walking around looking at books, no prices anywhere, no prices posted. So I took it up to the counter when I went to pick up my coffee, and I said, so how do I know how much the books are? And she said, how much do you want to pay? I said, I don't care, whatever you want me to pay. I wanted to pick up this book. And she's like, how about, I don't know what it was, $1 or $2 is something ridiculous. So I'm like, absolutely, would love to do that. So pulled out my change and picked this one up. I'm really enjoying this. It's a mystery. Anthony Horowitz, I've wanted to read for a long time. He does write for young adults. I think it's the Alex Rider series, if I'm not mistaken, on Amazon Prime, and he did that. He also did is it called Bad Blood, I think, that's on maybe Acorn. I'll have to look that one up. I'm not sure about that, but I'm pretty sure he did that series too, and I loved that. So I am really enjoying this. I'll have more to tell you whenever I'm reviewing it in my next video. Our Educational Service Center sent out information about a new online book club that we can do for our hours. As a teacher, when you renew your license, you have to have like 180 contact hours or take more college classes in order to renew your license every 5 years. So they're offering this online book discussion series, and it's for creatively productive essential skills for tackling time wasters, clearing the clutter, and succeeding in school and life by Lisa Johnson. And so I signed up, and they said, the first however many people to sign up get a free book, and I want a free book. So I start this on Monday, so I'm excited about that. I'm listening to Rachel Hawkins' The Wife Upstairs. I'm listening to that through NetGalley, so I got that to preview for them, and I'm so glad they haven't thrown me out of NetGalley because I've not done a very good job here lately of reading their books. I have a couple more that are kind of sitting out there that I need to get to. But it is a Jane Eyre retelling, a modern retelling. It is, remember earlier in the video when I talked to you about modern fiction? I don't know. I just struggle with it. I really like it. I like the audio. I want to know what's going on. It's an engaging story. But it's a 20-something potty mouth girl who's telling the story, and I don't have anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't have anything against that. But especially when I'm listening to the audio, my husband's walking in and out of the room or something, I'm like, don't judge me. Just don't judge me. But it's a good story. I am enjoying it, and I'm looking forward. I hope I get to finish that one this weekend. Is that it? I think that might be it. Well, also in that book haul, I guess I should include, some of those that I did read. That A Christmas Carol Murder by Redmond, I did receive that one for Christmas. Some other things that I've mentioned lately on my social media that I just want to make sure I kind of wrap in there. Goodreads, I will link below my Goodreads 2020, I don't know what it's even called, like profile from Goodreads, where it talks about all the books that you had finished, kind of puts it in a visual form for you. So I enjoyed that. Also, the Goodreads released their Choice Awards for 2020, and that's a really good list. Goodreads My Year in Books, that's what that's called. I'm not sure that I've talked much about Masterclass, so I do want to throw that one out there. I finished Neil Gaiman's series on Masterclass. It is a subscription service, but this is my second year doing it, and I just love it. I'm not wasting as much time watching mindless television. I'm watching something that is informative or educational or inspirational, and I love that. I've talked about the My Favorite Murder podcast, so there's my podcast that I would recommend, but I've recommended that one before. I don't know that I've recommended the church that we attend. It's Crossroads. They're based here in Cincinnati, but they have, I don't even know, a dozen locations everywhere else. And there's a great podcast that I listen to called Plan to Move, Thrive This Winter. So I'll link it below because that was a good podcast that I've listened to lately. And I have to say I have been trying to listen to that audio of The Wife Upstairs, so I've not listened to a ton of podcasts lately. My drink to recommend is, orange juice mixed with whatever adult beverage that you have on hand. I think that about covers it. I'm happy to be your friendly librarian. All the books that I've talked about, I've reviewed on Goodreads, except for The Knife of Never Letting Go, which I will get on there later today. Everything gets linked to my Facebook page, Instagram. Follow me whichever way you're comfortable. I do really want to thank you. I'm up to like 79 subscribers, and it's not about the numbers for me. I've shared my story, why I got started in this. I got out of the library. It was not my choice. And I was just mourning that fact, grieving the loss of my library. And then my husband built this library for me. And this is just a great way for me to continue to be able to talk about books. I'm enjoying my position back in the classroom with my freshmen and my seniors, but a lot of these books would not appeal to them. So I'm glad to be able to have someone to share those with. Remember, you can easily access any of these books for free by using your local public library, and even online using Libby through your local public library. That's how I listen to a lot of mine. I either listen or get them on my Kindle through my public library for free, using either Overdrive or Libby. So let's be social. Hit that subscribe or like button. Let me know that you're enjoying this as much as I am. Comment, email, message me, whatever way you can. Tell me about any of these books I've talked about, or tell me about something I haven't talked about. Let me know what you're looking for. Keep in touch and enjoy.